I'm putting a new drive in my modded PS3. Let's see how it goes. So, back in May, I was finishing my first semester of the year for university, and I made a video regarding the modding of my 3DS. From there, I was planning on showing off a couple other projects I've been working on, but then I made a few mistakes and now I'm replanning those videos. I also got busy with a few clients, one of which was to fix up a PS3 by putting a new drive in it, and if I could try and save the user data like trophies on it. But sadly I couldn't get those trophies with the tools I have. On that note, I then figured, why not make a video about me putting a new drive in my own PS3? If you're looking for a tutorial on this, then this is not the video for you. There's already better guides by people out there, and I would highly recommend MrMario for the in-depth process of also backing up your content, trophies, etc., and how you would protect yourself against bricking your PS3 before starting. Now with that said, let's check out how I put a new drive into my PS3. I used a 1TB solid-state drive, 2.5-inch form factor, and that's pretty much the stable max size you can put into one. I've put a 2TB and a 4TB in one to try and test prior to doing my client's PlayStation 3, just to make sure I quoted the right drive they needed. And both of them, the PS3 refused to format or read them. You might get away with 1.5TB, but that's a process I'd advise against. Stick with 1TB or less and you should be fine. I've not encountered any issues personally with 1TB, but do your research. It's important that you don't just take my word as gospel. In this process, I'll also be trying out my OGX Mini in wireless mode to try and be a replacement for a first-party PS3 controller that will allow me to press the PlayStation button and perform firmware flashing processes in safe mode. You may note that the USB-C port on this particular Pico 2W is actually tapped to the test points for the USB Micro B that the board usually requires to interface with the PlayStation or PC or whatever master device it's going to, and is not meant for the controller cable. So this Pico 2W OGX Mini is purely wireless. So first thing I had to do was remove the old drive. This was fairly simple for my slim model PS3. Just lift up the plastic shield for the screw that holds the front sliding panel and the drive slide in the PS3. Next was to add the 1TB solid-state drive that I had already initialized on my Windows PC with the master boot record, MBR partition scheme. Fairly certain that was unnecessary, but I did it anyways, as from experience, I didn't know if the PS3 was going to have a bit of a whine that it couldn't see the uninitialized drive that comes straight out of the pack, as many laptops did back in the day, and Windows still does today. After putting the new drive in and forgetting to slide the panel back over the front of the drive bay before putting the screw back in, I tipped the PS3 back over and heard a rattling sound inside. Now, I bought my PS3 secondhand from Cashies and I want to say Mildura. It arrived in a pre-used box and the only protection it had was a couple newspapers wrapped around it, and safe to say I was concerned. So I opened it up, and then I realized it had been opened before, which normally isn't a bad thing, and if it was to clean it out, I appreciate the sentiment. Nothing ended up being broken, however, I did find some peculiar things. The first, I inspected the fan. It was missing a screw, and thankfully it was what was rattling around in the console. The worrying thing is that the fan chassis inside the PlayStation has holes to the motherboard that the screw could have easily slipped into and shorted things on it. So I pulled out the fan and got the screw. I tried to put the screw back in and realized the thread had been stripped. This could have shot out during transport, I thought, but that would have been tough to do since the other screw was perfectly fine. The thread then must have been damaged by someone who had been in the unit before. Not a huge issue. I don't have the tools to cleanly fix it, and it'll operate fine with just one. But I'm not going to leave the old screw in there. Additionally, two of the security screws on the underside of the PlayStation had their threads stripped in the PlayStation chassis. So I doubt it was transport damage. So once I reassembled the whole thing and getting that rattling screw out, I proceeded to begin reformatting and reflashing the custom firmware. My PlayStation 3 was already modded before, so I just have to flash the custom firmware back on there. And if yours is not custom firmware, just flash the original firmware that's available from the PlayStation website. It's a quick Google away, and there's plenty of guides out there to cover the nitty-gritty. Again, I'd recommend MrMario for that. The problem here, though, was that the press start select process worked great for checking if it could be reformatted because it only required a brief press, but I'm not sure if it was the OGX Mini or if it was a PS4 controller issue. But holding start and select for 5 seconds causes the controller to turn off and doesn't let the system progress into the next step, so I still needed the PS3 controller. And it needed to be physically plugged in. Bit of a shame that, but I still really like my OGX Mini, and I'll just have to put another USB port on it if I want to use a non-first party controller or any other controller to perform this in the future. Once that was done, it flashed the custom firmware onto the new drive and everything was ready to be set up again. At this point, if you followed MrMario to make a trophy and save backup, etc., you can restore those now once you've re-set up the PlayStation. And you can see the XMB, which is the cross-menu board, I think. I don't know, I really don't know what that stands for. People just say it, I say it. Next, I used 3 mod packages personally on this PlayStation. I used Multiman mod for version 4.91, I think. And yes, it works on version 4.93. I also use Webman mod, the latest version that was available on the site that I got it from. So I have the ability to disable syscalls using the PlayStation overlay menu if I want to play online. It's pretty much required for that purpose, so if you plan on playing online, you need Webman mod. And finally, I also use Apollo Save Editor so I can make backups or emulate a PSN linked account if a certain game needs it. From here, I usually install Multiman, then I install the Webman setup, and then I install Apollo. But for some reason, the first install of Multiman failed. I'm not sure why, so I removed the broken package and installed Apollo first. Then I installed Multiman again, and it worked. Anyway, after installing Multiman, I installed Webman. And Webman has another step after this. Once all the packages were on the system, I opened up Multiman to install and configure that with defaults. Once that was dealt with, I installed the full version of the Webman mod by holding L1 and tapping X, while still holding L1 until it was completely done. And that was it. Everything was now ready for me to copy the already backed up disks I made from my NAS using FileZilla Pro and my Windows PC over the network and onto my PlayStation. And that's a whole other bag of worms, by the way. There's guides out there for that again, and yeah, do your research on that one. It's a lot to cover. All in all, this was a fun little project and a little bit of housekeeping to do. Thanks for watching, homies, and keep making things.